Craig are alright. Untitled joins the fight. Jump on in as the bus takes flight. The show starts now. Untitled, Brian and Craig. Entitled with Brian and Craig.
Welcome to it's the 90s boy band intro that we have with Brian and Craig.
Yes, we love 90s boy bands here on the question mark.
I don't know. Boy band's not really my thing, and yet somehow this one works.
It really does. Full disclosure, it was all Craig's doing. It is made with the power of artificial intelligence. So
I was gonna say very little of my doing, a tiny bit of my doing, and a bunch of large language model learning doing, I think. But yeah, you could barely even tell that it was written by a computer. No, wait,
yeah,
you can totally tell. You can totally tell in every way that it was written by a computer. But yeah,
I think my favorite is the boys back tonight.
It's pretty great. Yeah, I enjoy that. So
yeah,
I was coming up with all sorts of things that rhymed with "ite." I don't. First, to be honest, I was trying to do it as a Backstreet Boys thing, like everybody, and like so. Backstreet's back, all right. That whole that nightmare of a song. I was trying to make it kind of be like that. So like I was doing words as if that was the tune it was going to be to, because of course they're going to use the Backstreet Boys music. That's what AI does, is they just put your lyrics to that. So I just made a bunch of fight and tonight and all those things, and it just somehow it worked.
It came out really well. Not gonna lie.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
It's also, I feel like, what's his name? James Cameron? Yeah, James Cameron warned us all about this when he did the Terminator movies. But
I feel like movies and general pop culture for decades have been trying to warn us about this thing that we are just waltzing into while whistling with this whole AI thing. Like, we know how Terminator works out, right? Like at the end of that, the computers, there's a whole like Judgment Day, and it's bad, right? Like,
yeah, it's real bad. It's really bad.
We're doomed. Humanity's got another 20 years tops, probably.
Probably. Anyways, yeah. That's a great segue into into this episode, which is about spooky stuff, because it is October. Spooky. Yeah. Did anything spooky happen to you this week?
This was not a super spooky week. No. I mean, I know 'tis the season, but no, it's mostly just been me quietly working from home with very little interruptions. So I'm glad to be talking to another human being. It's nice.
I mean, the kids are gone. They're in school now.
They are, yeah. So I don't have to deal with that summertime can get to be a bit much. I mean, though I don't have little kids. My kids are 19 and 17, so it's not like they're not kids really. They're like miniature adults walking around. But
yeah, they're young adults
eating all my food. But when school comes back in session, I do get a little more time where it's just me in the house. So I work from home mostly. So
lucky. And he probably comments on the Broncos forums. I'm assuming. I have no idea.
I mostly just watch the games. I don't do a whole lot of commenting. I might read an article or two, but yeah, not much beyond that. Mostly I will doodle on my iPad, or I will... What else will I do if I'm not doing that? I don't know. I will do games. I will catch Pokemon. Yeah. I will watch sports of other nature besides just football, but not a lot of forum hopping.
Well, okay. At least you're not one of those guys.
I'm not really one of those guys so much. So yeah.
So if you listened to last week, we mentioned the Broncos had their was it the snowcap helmets, and they broke the curse.
No, that was last year. The snowcap ones were the white ones. This year it was just like 1977 throwbacks.
Okay, well they did break the curse though.
They did break the curse, and they looked beautiful doing it. It was really a good moment for me. So yeah, very happy about that. So that's a good thing that happened this week. It wasn't spooky, but Broncos winning. That's good. How about you? Did you have spooky things happening to you this week?
I didn't have anything spooky happening. Nope. Wait, I did chase off more raccoons. Craig knows all about my one-man war against the raccoons.
That is going to be a common theme today, believe it or not. My buddy actually this week was also chasing... Well, he wasn't chasing a raccoon. He had a raccoon that was deathly ill that decided it was going to die on his front doorstep. Yeah. So he sends me this picture of this raccoon that's all snuggled up on the front step of his house, and he's like, what is going on?
From what I actually understand, it's like raccoons are kind of like cats, in that when they know the end is near, they say their goodbyes to like the other raccoons if they're in like a colony.
Really?
Yeah, this is crazy, because like anyone who's ever had a cat who died, which is sad, they get really clingy and they just watch you more, and they're like and they find some place to quietly pass away. Raccoons do the same thing, oddly enough. They find some place quiet to expire, I guess. and sometimes it's your front porch.
Front porch, yeah, he looked really cozy. But yeah, my buddy called the sheriff's department and be like, I have a wild animal. What do I do? And they're like, not our problem. So the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Department, not helpful when it comes to removing raccoons. So,
Yeah, I mean, I
but
have rubber slugs, and thankfully it's not too loud. And I shoot them in the butt, and they hiss at me and kind of limp away, and, and then they disappear for like an hour, for like a week, and then they come back. So, I mean, I might be doing the whole kitty
yeah.
litter thing because they apparently don't like the ammonia in used kitty litter.
Oh, and use kitty litter. Interesting.
So like I'll have to like fish some out, crush it up, and like kind of put it around my house, and then they'll leave me alone. It's
Oh, you're not going to believe this, but when we get to the news, our
Okay.
news story also involves raccoons.
wild.
So it's a very raccoon centric show.
And I want you all to know that I had no idea. Craig, when he does the news,
No,
doesn't tell me what that is, and when I try to break his brain, I also don't tell him
it's
what it is.
that's
So
right.
this
That's
is
right.
this is quite kind of fortuitous.
Man, sometimes raccoons just dominate the world, and that's just how it's got to be
And
sometimes.
you know, I've always said this: you can't trust an animal with thumbs. You really can't.
Their hands are so
Yeah.
creepy. Oh my gosh, raccoons. Yeah, yeah, I know. I mean, I know they dip their food in water, and I don't. I think that's the same reason that like competitive eaters do it, so they can
Yeah.
get more in. I
Well,
don't know.
they also were found washing their hands, which is kind of creepy. Like,
Yeah.
why are you washing your hands? Well, I mean, I guess they walk on it, so they're like, oh, I'm going to wash my hands because some raccoon way back in the day, got sick and died, and this is why I don't know.
They're just trying to prevent the spread of COVID. Come
Ah,
on, they're being
true.
they're being
You
courteous.
know,
That's why raccoons always stay 6 feet apart from each other.
I don't know about that.
No, definitely not true. Definitely not true.
I don't know if they're vindictive, but they're like, I don't know what's the word for it.
Evil?
Well, they're evil, but they're inquisitive.
That's true. They're curious. Yes.
Yeah, that's the problem that I have is that they're always like. So they were actually trying to break into my neighbor's car because apparently they have an older car, and I guess they were able to get a hold of like the weather stripping, and they were pulling on it, and they're like, oh, maybe we can get in if we can do that.
This is fun. We could do this and destroy something. Yeah.
Also, fun fact: they're tearing up the tonneau cover on the Tesla. Oh, if you hear the beeping or the squeaking, my dog is bringing me one of her favorite toys.
I cannot hear Roki, although I wish I could see her because she is very cute.
Yeah, she's trying to. Roki, I'm doing a show. I'm doing a show.
She's like,
Her
this
ears
is
just drooped.
this is no concern of mine. I have a toy and I need to squeak it.
Her ears drooped, and she just looked at me, and I feel a little bad. But anyway, they're trying to break into like the tonneau covers of Tesla Cybertrucks because it's apparently either feels like to them the same material as the dumpsters.
Yeah, of course. They just look like dumpsters.
Yeah, and they're like tearing it apart and causing thousands of dollars worth of damage to these Cybertrucks because they're like, oh, maybe there's food in here.
You know, I was mostly anti-raccoon, but the fact that they're destroying Cybertrucks, maybe I could get on board with them at least a little. Like they're not all evil.
It's kind of like the orcas destroying the super yacht.
That was such a fun story when they were attacking all the super yachts. Yeah, that was good. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Sometimes nature is like, you know what? These people need to have a little bit less. Let's destroy these things of theirs because they have too much. Clearly.
Yes, you know what they say, life finds a way. Quote a
I think that's exactly what Michael Crichton was going for when he was writing Jurassic Park. So I think you nailed
yes.
it.
I
Good
think
job.
he was talking about how mankind will take over the earth and then nature will reclaim it by destroying Cybertrucks and super yachts.
And then AI will take us all out, and then we'll just, and then it'll be the end.
Yeah, there you go. And hopefully it's not a nuclear hellscape like it is in the Terminator.
Well, we can hope.
Yeah.
We can hope. Hopefully AI will have our best interest at heart. We've come full circle now. So
We have.
yeah. Oh, one other thing that happened this week, it's very important that I have to share because it wasn't spooky
Okay.
in any way, but it is something that it made me giggle far more than it ever could. It's if anyone out there is, has a small child. We're talking, a baby, like less than 2 years old.
Okay.
I've got a parenting tip for you that I learned by going through Reddit.
Ooh.
And I saw a video, and this video, well, it's life changing. I think is the only way to truly describe it. I wish I would have seen this video back when my children were small, because it would have really improved my parenting. I'm 100% certain of that. So,
Okay.
and here's what happened. We're all familiar with babies, right? Small humans,
Yeah.
very young,
Yes.
tend to not talk much. They can be cute. I'm not a huge baby guy. They're all right. I liked my babies. They were fine. I'm not. They're adorable. Yeah.
they were 2 out of 5 on the cuteness scale.
Oh no, on the cuteness scale, forget about it. My kids were 5, 6 out of 5, if not higher. So. But I mean, not that I'm a biased person, just that's how they were. I mean, I think anyone would have said so if they saw pictures of them. So anyhow, big downside to babies, though. You can maybe I can just put that out there for you. What's the biggest downside to a baby, Brian?
I'm gonna say, I mean, they don't have a good sleep schedule.
True.
And they just kind of cry a lot.
There you go. Ding, 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 ding. We have a winner.
Okay, I got it.
They just want to cry all the time. Like this is all babies, like good ones, bad ones, mediocre.
Right.
Top babies, in the world. All the best babies. All of the babies. Their problem is that they just want to cry, and it's like that's for a good evolutionary reason. Like this is how they convey their wants and needs because they can't actually speak or really think very much or do anything other than just sit and eat and suck and poop. That's about the extent of their talents.
Yeah.
I discovered this week through this video that I saw on Reddit, what I'm only assuming is surefire because I didn't see anyone in the video that this didn't work on, but a great way to instantaneously get your infant to stop crying. Are we intrigued?
Is it like grab your keys and jingle them?
No, nothing so pedestrian as that. This is something that made me.
Okay.
This is something that made me laugh in a deep, deep and spiritual way, and has really touched my soul and brightened my entire month. Are you familiar with cheese slices, Brian?
Yeah, like
a Kraft single.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be American cheese. It could be cheddar, it could be Swiss, it could be provolone, potentially anything. Yeah. Here's what you do. You go to your fridge, your baby's crying. It's driving you crazy because of course it is, because baby's crying is, I think there's something inside of us that's like, this needs to stop.
Yeah.
You grab a piece of cheese and you throw it on their head, right on their face or on the top of their head.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that is the entire secret to making a baby stop crying. Because this video had about, I'm going to say 30 to 40 babies, maybe not quite that many, but a lot of babies. And every single one of them, their parents, while videoing, threw a slice of cheese in their face or on top of their head. And I am telling you, without exception, every single child immediately stops crying. They get this look of utter confusion, like, what has just happened? What is this? There is a thing on me that should not be here. And they stop crying and they just focus on the cheese. And they slowly pull it off of their head and they look at it and they're confused. And then they just look at their parents like, why would you have done this to me? And sure, maybe the downside to this is that suddenly your child no longer trusts you because you are likely to be throwing condiments at their head at any moment. But the upside is they stop crying. It's brilliant. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. And it's like a surefire way to get your child to stop crying. TM or not TM, but a surefire way to get it to stop happening. Assuming that every one of those videos was not completely set up and that it doesn't actually work on babies. But I'm gonna for the sake of my soul, I'm gonna assume that it works on all babies. You can just throw a slice of cheese on their head, and and they will stop crying.
That is something I will have to try. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna have to try that.
You absolutely. I can't wait to be around a baby when I'm at a picnic, because there's usually, if there's babies at a picnic, there's usually also slices of cheese, and I can just, I can test the theory. Well, I can also test my friendships with my friends who have babies.
Yeah, there you go.
Because hey, make your kid cry, and then suddenly sling a slice of cheddar at him and see what happens.
That's got to be one of our first T-shirts, crying baby, huck a slice of cheese.
A slice of cheese. Yeah, we'll have to work on the merchandising for that, but it's incredible.
Yes.
And I cannot recommend. I'll see if I can find that video, and I'll try to send it to you, and so you can get a good view of it. But yeah, it's that was one of the highlights of my week, is just this video. Do you ever stupid cry, laugh so hard that you're almost crying just because something so dumb just touches you in just a certain way?
Yep.
Yeah, that was me watching these children having cheese thrown at their face. Yeah. I've probably oversold it now, but it was great and I loved it.
Well, it sounds great. You know what else is great? The news.
Yes.
The news.
Uber producer Lauren sent me a news. He sent me a news story. Well, he actually sent me the news story that we're going to cover, but he also sent me another news story about why people in the 40s talked like that on newscasts.
Yes.
Right?
Producer Lauren.
I know. He's amazing. So he definitely gets a producer credit for, with Brian and Craig. But apparently it was to reduce so that nobody would have an accent. Like it would get rid of like pretty much any accent if you tried talking that way.
Oh, I see. So like if you had like a regional, if you had like a Midwestern accent, it would totally get rid of it.
It basically would, yeah. So everybody sounds pretty much the same. When
Oh.
they're doing this, everyone sounds pretty much the same.
You know, I think you're right there, Craig.
Also, when you're doing that, it was a higher register, and back then the microphones had a harder time picking up deeper tones.
Oh, that makes sense.
If they talked like that, the news broadcast actually came through over the radio better. So there is a reason. And so like they started doing that, and then I think it just became like, well, this is what we do when we're doing the news. So
I mean, I guess that makes sense because because the whole thing about bass is like a relatively new thing. I guess like late 70s, early 80s. So that makes sense.
right, because microphones started to improve.
Yeah, I mean they were always improving, but I mean it makes sense because the first one would pick up.
Yeah. So it only took us 1 week of doing a show to actually get an answer to one of our questions. So I'm feeling pretty good. Yeah, about our reach
Hey man,
already.
that's one.
So.
That's 1 for 1.
I know.
Well, I guess 1 for 2. 1 for 2. We still didn't do the malaria thing.
Oh, this is true. This is a good point. We have that question that
Yeah.
still hasn't been answered, but we got time. So
We got
okay. Speaking of Uber producer Lauren, this story also comes from Lauren, and it's pretty amazing. And it also involves the official animal of today, raccoon.
the raccoon.
Dateline, Kitsap County, Washington. A woman called in a panic 911 this week because,
Okay.
for reasons that she didn't understand, nearly 100 raccoons swarmed her backyard in broad daylight looking for their next meal. She had over 100 raccoons in her backyard. This is in like,
Oh my god, that's terrifying.
it's so scary. And there's like video of this. Like there's just raccoons swarming. This is a woman in Kitsap County, which is just outside of Seattle, like on the Puget Sound. So it's like
Oh, okay.
it's like a city. It's suburban, and if you've ever been to Washington, suburban Washington, there's lots of trees. There's wildlife. It's a thing.
Right.
Unlike my buddy had a raccoon at his front porch. You've had to shoot some with rubber bullets.
Yeah.
Hundreds of raccoons. The picture is terrifying. There's like all of these raccoons everywhere.
That's like what is it in The Mummy when all those scarab beetles come out, but it's like raccoons.
But it's raccoons. Yes, very much the same vibe. Like terrifying animals coming out of nowhere to swarm you, and you don't know why. So I sort of know why, though. As I read more of the story, I think this woman kind of brought this upon herself because apparently she's been having raccoons coming for a little bit, 1 or 2 at a time.
Yeah.
And she would feed them.
Oh no.
Yeah, she would. So like, they would come and approach the house and scratch at
Mhm.
her windows or whatever, and she's like, "Oh, they're cute." And she would come out and bring them a little bit of food. And apparently, in raccoon circles, word gets around when there's,
You buy the raccoon water cooler.
that's right. You're like, "Hey, the place we got to go? We got to go to Mary's house because Mary just hands it over." Usually we have to knock over trash cans and break into Cybertrucks, but no, this woman will just give us food. And so 100 raccoons show up, and suddenly the more aggressive ones are the ones that are going to get the food in a raccoon's mind.
Yeah.
So they start acting all crazy, like it's like Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, only with raccoons. And
Alfred Hitchcock's The Raccoons.
the raccoons. Oh, I need to see this movie. Come on, Alfred. Why'd you have to be dead? He died before he could have made his true epic, opus.
It's
there.
true. That would have been his opus. Yes, 100%.
Definitely raccoons. So don't feed wildlife is basically the news for today. Or you might suddenly, and very much against your will, have a few hundred raccoons just show up in your backyard. So
Man,
I'm Craig, and that's the news.
that's the news. Yeah, no, that's absolutely horrifying. I could never. I mean, listen, I've only dealt with like 4 of them, and even dealing with 4 of them with my dog
Right.
is still
They're
like
scary.
they're like they hiss and they like
Ew.
what was it? Chuff? The thing?
Yeah, I don't know what that noise is called, but I don't like it.
I don't know what that noise is. Yeah, I know. It's like nope. Like it's like a hiss spit kind of thing. Not a fan. Not a fan.
Nope. So
I don't know if this will break your brain, but this in honor of Spooky Month.
okay.
This is a story of folklore passed down that I've heard actually firsthand. So it's got that
Authenticity.
that authenticity. Yeah.
There you go. Okay.
So there's a town in the Kenai Peninsula where I grew up called Portlock and then Port Chatham. So they're like right next to each other. So kind of like how Chernobyl and
Okay.
Pripyat were connected. If you get the reference, you work in Port Chatham, you live in Portlock, essentially.
And these are the cities you want to compare. That
People would work in Chernobyl, but they would live in Pripyat.
Right.
Okay, so it's Kenai Peninsula. It's kind of like Western Washington. So if you can picture that kind of climate.
Trees. Okay.
Tons of trees, kind of wet, stuff like that. It was a cannery.
Okay.
They were canning, so it was there for I think the 1800s is when both of them were founded.
Okay.
And the cannery shut down in 1905 because the Alaska Natives were like, "Yo, there's something in the trees." We're freaked out of our mind because they just cleared out an area and it's like a bunch of little houses in the middle, like a bunch of cabins in the middle of nowhere, Alaska. And they're like, "Hey, there's..."
I was gonna say things are bound to be in the trees.
Yeah, so there's something in the trees, there's something in the forest. We're not going to work. So like, well, since nobody wants to work, we're gonna shut it down. They came back a year later, and everything was sort of fine. There were stories of like hunters going out and then missing completely, or like they'd see like a torso floating down the river, like really spooky stuff. And they're like, "Oh man, there's somebody's must be doing this." And then people who were venturing out in the woods to subsist, to live in subsistence lifestyle, were like, "No, there's something here." So in Alaska it's called the hairy man, not Sasquatch.
Okay, well, this is a Yeti story though.
Yeah, pretty much. It's basically, hey, there's this hairy man that's going around and isn't happy we're here and is like, A, killing people, and B, causing mischief. So they would like go to work in the cannery and machinery would be like destroyed. And they're like, "No man can do this. This thing weighs 500 pounds. And they'd see, suspicious footprints, stuff like that. And this went on for decades, but it apparently didn't get really bad until like 1948.
Okay.
1948, 1949.
1948. You said the cannery closed in 1905, and then this is like the ancient remains of a factory or something that this is all happening in.
So
Or did I get the timeline wrong?
they left in 1905, and they're like, "We're not working." And they're like, "Okay," so they shut the cannery down, and then it reopened in 1906. Yeah. So and then
okay.
Yeah, no problem. And then I kind of glossed over it a little bit. They did reopen, and so it didn't get really bad until like it kept happening a lot more frequently, to where it was noticeable that people were missing, and they would send out search parties, and they would find like mangled corpses, like absolute terrifying, real horror show stuff. And so they're like, "Oh
Yeah.
man, I don't want to do this anymore." And so they brought it up to the people at Port Chatham. They were like, "No, you're just being superstitious." And then one night, this is where the first-hand knowledge comes around. There was a woman, I believe it was an elder, who lives in Nanwalek, which is a nearby city, nearby town.
Okay.
They were basically saying that they just all up and left. They like just one day they were like, "Nah, man, F this noise," left. And it was a huge exodus in the night. There were fires, and they lit fires and stuff. The people lit fires to scare away the creatures so they could, get away. And the elder said that she saw like very tall, disturbing figures, in front of the flames. Like really creepy. And when I worked up there, I actually grew up nearby, like 100 miles or so away from there. I actually talked with an elder who basically told the exact same story to me, and I was like, "That is absolutely horrifying."
But in an awesome way.
Yeah, but apparently everywhere you look, they're like, "Oh no," because around the time 1948, 1949, the Seward Highway was built, so it connected Anchorage to Seward, which is big port city, a big-ish port city,
Right.
and people were like, "Man, screw this! I don't want to deal with this, having to take a boat here and living in this crap shack and doing canning. I'm just going to go to Seward and work in the port or work on a boat." And that's
Sure,
what people say, but the real ones know. The real ones know. Yeah, and then apparently in 2021, the Discovery Channel sent a crew out there to go check it out, and I watched this episode. They used like a FLIR, which is an infrared camera.
Okay.
And they picked up things moving in the forest.
Ooh.
Spooky.
I want to believe. I love it. That's
I mean,
awesome.
It didn't really break your brain, but I think it's pretty cool.
No, it's fun. It's good for spooky month.
And the other thing is, like, if you want to get really deep into the folklore about it, apparently it's before you see like a hairy man, you usually hear like a wailing woman, and I don't fully understand the connection between that in the Alaska Native folklore.
I do. It's the wife, and she's like, "I'm hungry.
I'm hungry. Feed me."
So she's like, "Yeah, go feed me, Seymour." And so Seymour goes out, and he rips somebody apart to bring back, because when mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy.
true.
So you gotta feed. Yeah, that's totally what it is. 100%.
Happy wife, happy life.
Exactly. Exactly. The Sasquatch version. Or excuse me, the Hairy Man version.
A hairy man version. And, since we're all being candid here, I've actually seen one because I grew up in a small town and we had chickens at the time. And the chickens are very loud when something, is, messing with their coop.
Sure.
And this was at a time that we were repairing our fence, so our fence was down. And I was like, oh, God, it better not be a bear or something. So I grabbed my 22, I came around the corner, and I just see like this matted fur, like it looked kind of like a bear, but it was like hunched over, and its arms were longer. And then the smell was like god awful. And I was like, and I just kind of like stood there, and I was thinking, man, this 22 isn't going to do anything.
It's not we're gonna need a bigger gun.
Yeah. And I was like, and I think I just kind of weakly said, hey.
Hey, Mr. Hairy Man.
Yeah, but it looked over and it had like the face of a man, and it just jumped, like
Oof.
ripped its hand out of the chicken coop and jumped and stomped off into the trees. And I'm like, nope,
Not following that.
absolutely, absolutely not. So yeah, no, that I think I was like 16. I was about 16, and it has been seared into my brain.
That's amazing.
So I believe the hairy man is real.
Okay.
I believe the hairy man is
I
real.
mean, I want to believe. That's great. I love it. So that's fantastic. I have two responses to that story.
Okay.
My first one is just, I think my favorite part about it was that you described torsos floating down the river, and then like 2 sentences later said they were involved in some mischief. Torsos floating down the river, I think, evolves a little bit beyond just mischief, but I enjoyed your description of it. I thought that was great, and I loved it. The other thing is, we need to open up a spa for like the Yeti / Sasquatch / hairy men of the world, because every description that
Ooh.
ever is made about them, they smell awful, and so like maybe they
Yeah.
just need like a shower and to be pampered a little bit. Get some of the
Maybe.
some type of perfume or something. I don't know how you deodorize a giant creature of legend, but something. And maybe we could domesticate them a little bit so that they wouldn't smell so bad, and maybe people would be less afraid if they didn't smell just like death incarnate. Those are my two responses to your story.
I mean, one would think that they would have some sort of hygiene. I mean, they've been said to use tools,
right?
I would assume there's something. I guess they just don't care because their fur's all matted
Right.
and stuff. I don't know.
Or maybe in their culture, like the smellier you are, the more attractive you are to the opposite sex. I mean, who are we to judge, based off of the way we prefer things? Maybe stinky is good,
Oh yes, the hairy man musk from Dior.
There you go. I think that might put Christian out of business, but I'm still here for it. I like it, and yeah.
I mean, there are some things that smell really bad. I will say, like some of it one of them kind of smells like gasoline. It's wild.
100% of the time it works, or no, wait, was it 50% of the time it works every time?
Works every time. Sex Panther.
That's what it is. Thank you. Thank you for picking up what I was putting down.
Those movies live rent free in my head.
They're great. So
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. So okay, it's time for everyone's favorite part of the show.
Yes.
And by everyone, I mean mine at least. I don't know, maybe someone else's, but I think I'm ready to go already.
Oh, you got one. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I got one.
All right.
my friend.
Okay.
I got
Okay.
one. So it's I'm gonna call it a suspense thriller.
Okay.
It opens in a small Alaskan town, because of course it does.
Love it. Love it.
People are disappearing, Brian.
Ooh.
People are just going away,
Ooh.
and no one can explain it. And it's getting more and more intense, to the point where people are just leaving cities and being like, forget this. This isn't going to be happening. But there's still a group of diehards that are like, you know what? This is my home. This is where I need to be. So they're going to make their last stand. They don't know what they're up against.
Okay. Okay.
And we get little visions of it throughout the film. You might see a ringtail here.
Yeah. Okay.
You might see a creepy hand dipping something into water.
Ooh. Okay.
But not until we get more to the the real beats of the story, where it's
Ooh.
really intense.
All right. I love a good Act 3 reveal.
Hundreds of raccoons
Oh no.
coming in, but these are killer raccoons. I don't know if they need to be from space. Killer raccoons from space might be a bit on the nose, but we can workshop that.
Okay,
But
okay.
the raccoons are coming, and they're bringing hell with them, and only one man
Ooh.
can save humanity.
Ooh.
And I don't have a good name for the hero.
Oh man.
But it's got to be something like, his tools are simple. They're craft singles. And he uses them. It can stop a baby from crying, and it can stop a raccoon from killing, my friend. He just flings them. And he has deadly accurate aim.
That's
And he can
amazing.
stop a raccoon from 100 paces. And he just is he's flinging cheese. That's what he does to save our small our small Alaskan town. So that's all I have for my pitch, but
Oh man. What's the title? Hit me with the title.
Oh God, I know the title. Oh, I don't know.
Oh no.
I'm not a title guy. We'll have to get our best people on. You got something?
Ooh, how about a Slice of Death?
Oh yes, love it. Slice of Death. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was better than. I feel like that's better than my pitch.
Oh, I want to hear
But
yours. I want to hear yours because we can
okay.
workshop it. We can put together. We can make gold. We can spin gold from this.
Okay, so starts off first act. It's a small town in Washington,
Okay.
suburbia.
There you go.
Family living there, regular old all American family. Really, they're just hanging out, and then weird stuff, was happening around their house. Trash cans overturned in the middle of the night. They can't really see what's going on. They hear things, and then eventually they talk to their grandfather. And grandfather's like, "Well, you got to go to the source." The family, mom and dad are like, "Where's the source?" Like, source is in a small town in Alaska. And then Act 2, okay? They're in this small town, and there's a few things. It's kind of like a mining style town, boardwalks, kind of like older buildings from the 1800s, that sort of thing. And they're going in and they're like, "Hey, we've been noticing this thing. We live in Washington." And they're like, "Oh, we've heard about this. This happened, years and years and years ago." I'm like, so what do you think it is? And they're cagey about it, right? They're like, "Okay, whatever." So they're staying in their grandfather's cabin, right? And the father is eating a sandwich. Okay, he's eating a sandwich, and he hears rustling in the trees, and then he sees, he shines a light, and all he sees is like 2 eyes,
Ooh.
and then 4 eyes, and then 6, and then it just multiplies. And so he's like, "Oh crap!" And so he just flings his sandwich, and out flings the craft single. The craft single smacks like wet thwaps on a tree, right? Okay, and then the creatures like skitter away, and then that's Act 2, and he's like, "Well, what's up with the craft singles?" And then you find out through some writing BS, that we'll have to workshop, that like they don't understand what a craft single is. Like, it smells weird or something to them.
Yeah.
And it turns out it's raccoon hybrids who have evolved
Ooh.
to be more man-like.
I like this.
And then kind of like a creature feature type thing. And then the guy goes into the nest and just like pumps nacho cheese into the nest, and that's how it ends.
I like that our movies are very similar and yet different. We each have our own take on it. But yeah, I think what we've learned here is there's a deep vein of raccoon horror that
Yes.
has yet to be tapped in Hollywood.
Yes, I think.
But hopefully we can begin this.
Yeah, you're right. I think they haven't. I mean, they only did like what, 1 or 2 movies. I think the most recent was Raccoon, which was a raccoon that was high on crack.
Raccoon. Oh, that's a good title.
I know, right? And the tagline for that one is "Crack kills." Good stuff.
Oh my god,
Good
that
stuff.
is really good. Oh,
But my title is Mystery of the Craft with a KRAFT.
KRAFT, of course.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe we can get some a little of that craft money, to sponsor it too. So.
Well, the problem I have with craft singles is like, A, they're not flammable, which is disturbing, and B, they're a cheese product.
Yeah, it's not cheese; it's cheese food.
Yeah, so I don't know, but anyways, yeah, we could workshop it for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I think we've got something good here, though. These are not finished products that we're coming up with. These are pitches.
Yeah,
Like, we have time. We have time to workshop it and make it great. Or someone else can run with it. That's the whole point of the pitch. Is
Yeah.
that we're the idea guys, and then they take it from here. But that's kind of the whole point. Is that we're putting these ideas out in the universe, and
if
see what
that happens, all we ask for is a small writing credit.
That's right, and maybe a link in the credits to the podcast. That'd be nice.
There we go. Based on this podcast. Yeah, see, there we go.
Instead of based on a true story, true story, it's based on 2 guys just making shit up in their backyards. So,
Yeah, no,
I love it.
That would be great. Well,
that would be wonderful. So, all right. Well, we've made it to the end. I'm ready this week, so you have to do the until then, and then I'm ready to rock us out.
Okay, so until then, I will be in the Alaskan forest looking for a raccoon human hybrid.
Wow.
Wow, with the cat meow, and right after that. That was perfect.
I love it. So until next time, be sure to read the Q-tip box. It's our sign off, right? Like, it's got to be.
That is our sign off. Yeah, it's got to be. And until next time, make sure to read the Q-tip box.
Good night.
Now we're on YouTube. So we actually have comments and stuff. So if you're wondering why, watch the first step or listen to the first episode.
Hopefully it continues, and that just becomes more and more like, why do they say read the Q-tip box?
Yes,
it's just good.
So
yes.
But until then,
be sure to read the Q-tip box.
Untitled with Brian and Craig is produced and edited by me, Brian Dunnigan. It is also hosted by me, Brian Dunnigan, as well as Craig Dodge. Opening and ending themes are created by AI, so nobody has license to those.